What happened to the bully in your class? He was killed shortly after being released from prison. He apparently had a beef with someone and went to their house with a gun, kicked in their front door, and was immediately shot and killed. He now owns his father's huge, massively lucrative construction co. Which is exactly what he said he was going to do, and also let us know how much richer he was going to be than us. So yeah, it sucks BC, it came true. After years and years of being bullied in middle and high school by one particular guy, I took my dad's lawnmower in to get serviced, and look who we have here. Good old racist F-boy Sean walks up to the counter covered in dirt and oil and sweat. He immediately knew who I was. Funny thing is, I hated this dude for so long, I even had a vision on snatching him by his shirt over the counter and beating his face into the ground. I was skinny skater punk now. Nothing was said between us during that interaction other than the services I needed. When I went to go pick the lawnmower up a week later, he asked me to step outside. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going pummel this dude. He lit up a cigarette and for about 15 minutes, apologized for how he treated me in middle school and high school. He told me about how he was brought up and he's never been as tough as he came up. After high school, he went in the military and was forced to work with other races. He even explained that his hatred towards people that weren't white faded away BC of the Marines. He said he had been fucked over more by his own race than others and started to think about his ideology. He is a humble guy now, with regret, but is man enough to admit his faults. We shook hands and even hugged. I haven't seen him in about 10 years, but if I do see him again, I still shake his hand. Damn. Congrats party popper, you witnessed something no person usually gets to witness. My grandfather had a similar story with the Navy. It got him out of bumblefuck, NC, and away from his family where he had to figure stuff out on his own. Came back from Korea and was basically ran out of town. I only met exactly one relative from his side of the family whom he could barely stand but tolerated because, to quote my grandfather, the others were clan members. He died the summer after graduating high school. Mixed too many drugs and alcohol at a party. Very sad for his younger brother, who was a great person despite his brother. Yeah, I'm pals with my old bully's sister. She's a very nice person. It sucks her brother died. Even if he was a dick. For whatever fucking reason, he asked me out a few years after graduation. He bullied me. Had this happened to a friend. She ran into our mutual bully at a party in college. He was hitting on her and she was ignoring him. She finally told him to fuck off using his name. Apparently he was shocked to realize she knew him. She apparently asked him why he thought she'd ever be interested in hooking up with someone who bullied her so much back in grade school. Apparently his response was something like, "Wow. I was such an asshole back then." Similar experience. He was so mean. I was glad when he moved interstate. 20 years later finds me on FB. He had a major glow up too, damn it, and sent friend request. I was in two minds, accepted anyway. Start chatting. He moved back to the town we lived in and said he started asking around about me and was told I moved away, so found me on Facebook. Turns out, I was his first crush and he just didn't know how to handle it, so any attention was good attention and he picked on me. We've been communicating on and off ever since for the last 10 years. In jail for strangling his girlfriend. Thankfully she survived. Those who strangle a partner are significantly more likely to murder them compared to other domestic abusers. I kid you not, we had a 5-foot-tall bully in our school. He gained favor with some of the bigger bullies, and I suppose that afforded him carte blanche to act like them. Anyways, a few short years after HS, he fucked with the wrong dude at a party and they followed him home and shot him dead on his mom's front lawn. Not to the same extent, but there was someone like that at my school. Short little dude who got a big man complex cause of the bigger bullies he rolled with. At an after-grad party he got jumped and someone took a metal rod and branded his leg after they dipped the rod in the fire. Post that incident he works for a non-profit for kids in abusive home lives. Makes me wonder what he had going on behind the scenes. The boy bully married the girl bully. They had a kid, then divorced. Shocking. She did an insane amount of growing up during college, including having to uproot her whole life to care for her family after her mom died suddenly. She reached out to me and others I know personally and directly addressed the bullying. We went out to lunch, she bought, and she was incredibly honest, apologizing and acknowledging what she did and why it was wrong. She's now running a successful animal rescue organization with her long-term boyfriend, and I wish her nothing but happiness. Love a story with a happy ending. Beat a fellow drug dealer to death during a transaction gone bad. Sentenced for murder, but then somehow it was downgraded to manslaughter. Served about 10 years, and judging from his FB posts, I know his brother. He has a girlfriend, a job, and has cleaned up his act. Edit to add what happened. Just looked up the story. He was convicted of second-degree murder with depraved indifference. Then the State Court of Appeals changed the law interpreting the definition of the charge. The federal court vacated the conviction, finding that the defendant was factually innocent of depraved indifference murder. He agreed to plead to the lesser charge of manslaughter. So he had already served 10 years and was released after the plea to manslaughter. The kid who used to beat me up every day in 3rd grade one-heard crashed a motorcycle and lost both his testicles. So he's got that going for him, which is not nice. His father was caught stealing millions from the community. Dad was a wealth manager and all his clients were friends and neighbors in a sort of small town. The family was really put through the ringer of embarrassment, and the bully was a wreck for a long time. I guess he realized all the wealth and arrogance that he grew up with was stolen from everyone he knew. I saw him years later, and it was like seeing a different person. He had changed his name, walked differently, and held himself with a different posture. We spoke for a few minutes, and it was almost like he was genuinely interested in me. He didn't go out and say sorry for what he had done, but it seemed like he wanted to, but though it would be tacky. Maybe I'm reading too much into that interaction, but it was a little weird. It was like he had been forcing himself to be an actual nice guy. I'm gay. I wasn't out of the closet as a kid, but everyone knew. A bulldyke friend once told me, "You're incredibly butch. Until you move or open your mouth." Many guys were nasty to me about it. At my 30th anniversary, those of them who were there each approached me individually to tell me they were sorry, it was wrong of them and they had learned better. It was surprisingly moving, and I appreciated it from each guy. Prison for killing people by lighting a diner on fire. Will you elaborate? This is not something you read every day. He became the CEO of the company he started in after college. He is the chairman of the local football team and runs the beach cleanup crew every month. Always has a smile and has clearly just kept on growing up. Well, that's a nice change compared to the others. One is long dead from a drug deal gone bad. Another is a big-bellied deputy sheriff who was kicked off the force after decades of questionable behavior. He ended up being my direct manager at a serving job, and TBH, he was one of the best managers I've ever had. He is in Leavenworth serving a life sentence for murder. No one was surprised when they found this out. I am going to be honest, I am a bit disturbed by how many bullies apparently went on to murder someone. Same thing for my middle school bully, currently in jail for a murder at a drug deal gone wrong. He was the driver but still caught the murder charge. Was a crazy thing. I saw an article about how someone my exact age from my hometown was arrested for murder and made a joke about how I probably knew them. That was my middle school bully. My middle school bully from my class got hit by a car and didn't go to school for a whole year. Then he skipped school for the next year, literally the entire year. Then he finally got expelled and I never saw him or heard anything about him. I was bullied so bad by a kid in middle school I switched to a school in the next town over. Ran into him in high school at the YMCA. I had hit puberty by then and was way bigger than him at this point. I asked to guard him and I played as dirty as I could. Knee to the chest when he tried to block my layup. Elbows flying everywhere at all times. Bone-crunching pics. Never said a word to him. Just beat him up as much as I thought I could get away with while generally staying within the rules. I know it was petty AF, but it was cathartic. Never saw him at the Y again. The autistic kid beat him in Spanish class within an inch of his life, flipped over the desk, picked this dude's body up and slammed him, kidneys first, into one of the legs. Johnny was just your normal, happy-go-lucky video game fan. We went to see the original Mortal Kombat movie in theaters when it came out. It was my second movie-going experience. I was just a newly transplanted immigrant and Johnny was the only kid who didn't pick on me. He was cool. Johnny was heavy-set, with glasses. Juan was a gangbanger. Real cholo-looking dude. He and his friends were pretty terroristic. In retrospect, I'm sure Juan had a terrible upbringing because he took it out on everyone around him. For months he kept picking on Johnny. Months. Juan was a scary guy, and I had gotten into my share of scraps, but I wanted no part of this guy. This abuse went unchecked. Juan broke John's glasses and it was just persistent. I don't remember all of it, other than Johnny just became more and more reclusive with time and he was always bruised in some way, shape or form. One day, in Spanish class, Juan said something to Johnny about his mom. This was before the bell rang for class to start. This was the final straw. I remember John letting out this guttural, primal scream and lunging from his desk toward Juan. Johnny began hammer-fisting Juan all over the head, his shoulders, arms, like fucking Goro would in MK. Just unleashing everything he had on this asshole gangbanger. There came a point when Juan looked out of it, like a limp noodle, and that was when John, still possessed by this unrelenting rage, flips the desk over, and underhand flips, body slams Juan into one of the legs of the desk. Juan let out this horrible cry of agony and that was that. The teacher walks in, they call the campus police and the rest is a blur. I don't remember what happened to John after this as I never saw him again, but I do remember hearing from an acquaintance back several years that Juan was in jail for aggravated robbery. Guess he didn't learn his lesson. Thank you, Johnny, for being a friend and for not judging me while I learned the language here and adjusted to my new life. I hope all is well with you. This was one hell of a story. Thank you for the good read. She became an influencer and had tons of followers because people think she is really funny because of how stupid she is. She kinda have a Paris Hilton persona going on. Very spoiled rich girl pretending to be stupid and know nothing about the world. It's entirely not surprising to me that HS bullies can be good as influencers. They live for their crowd's validation and now with the internet they can have much more than their local crowds. Many years after graduation, I found out that he became a local cop in the town we grew up. It was the least surprising thing to everybody. He dead. Edit for visibility. My bully died of an overdose. Don't be a bully, get help in your area. If you go somewhere and they don't seem helpful, find another organization, or walk into an emergency department and ask for help. There are good people out there working towards pro-social means. Don't give up. Mine too. He got stabbed after a street race. He was right out of high school. Actually, I think he's been dead longer now than he was alive. Went to college, got into drugs, lost his scholarship and got kicked out. Last I saw he's working construction and is making duck faces on his profile pic on Facebook. They murdered someone and are now in prison. Haha, same. However, a year after graduation my friends and I were leaving a restaurant and we saw him horribly attempting to break into a car. We were like, Robbie, no, and he called us pussies and walked off. After the 20th reunion heard he moved to Dallas, met an attorney, killed him and horribly tried to cover up the murder but was caught that day. Dumbass. Opened a really stupid store in an overpriced mall in the 90s. Lost a crap ton of cash and killed himself. Hey, drove drunk, got in a wreck, and is now paralyzed from the waist down. He is still a bully, but now he's an online bully. The accident seems to have made him feel even more justified in being a prick. I saw him walking in front of my family's house, certain he was passing by, while I was playing with my daughter and her cousins. He gave me a little wave and I thought I'd just wave back to be nice. He messaged me later on Facebook and said he's glad I'm doing better than him. Long story short, he told me his ex-wife and him are having a serious custody battle with their kid and recently got a DUI which got him in a deeper hole. He basically said don't end up like him. As much as I hope he gets better, karma really is a bitch. I saw him rush the field at an NFL game and get arrested. Good times. I was only ever bullied in elementary school in Texas. I moved to Ohio during 5th grade. At some point in late middle school or early high school I heard the guy who used to bully me got mad at his parents because they wouldn't let him go to a concert, so he took his dad's shotgun and killed himself. No idea. I left town and never looked back. Became the president of a small Christian college. He's on Facebook constantly crying about how unfair life has been to him. He also said he won't go to our 10-year HS reunion because he was bullied by the assholes that are now organizing the reunion. When I commented and reminded him how he bullied me, he just said, "At least I didn't make you suicidal like they made me." Completely delusional. I feel bad for him. I don't care enough about them to keep tabs. I've grown into a healthier person than I used to be, and I like the distance between us. This post made me think about the bullies in my school growing up. I haven't heard a word about any of them, and even with this post asking, I still am not interested in their lives enough to look them up. Oh, I have the best one for this, guys. Promise. So my bully was a guy, I'm a sheik, and he was relentless. From kindergarten through middle school. Peaked in middle school. He would stick his leg out and trip me when I would walk by, then laugh. Crap like that. He annoyed everyone. Imposed on your personal space. Would tell lots about me to others so they would not like me. It really bothered me deeply. I could not understand what I had done to have someone so adamant about humiliating and hurting me. Publicly. Well, after middle school he disappeared to some other school and I slowly repressed it all and forgot of him in my active thoughts. Then I get my first apartment with a friend and a real job and going to college. I'm sitting on my new couch in my new place watching To Catch a Predator. Like everyone did back then. Next up on To Catch a Predator. And I hear his name. I hear that jerk-off's name. And there he is walking in to meet an underage girl he has very disgusting text convos with. I could not believe it. I stood up and screamed aloud. I felt so vindicated for the feelings of hatred and inability to forgive him as a younger girl. Justice served. My bully from elementary school through high school served prison time for embezzlement. He's selling mobility scooters and supporting his stepchildren. He was abused at home, and I was an easy target. Back then I fantasized about murdering him. Now I appreciate that he was crying out for help. I'm never going to be best friends with him, but I'd shake his hand and wish him well any day. Coasts on daddy's cash and is one of many not too rich but still rich douches revving a generic 2013 BMW M320 on all IG stories. My elementary school bully, in S. Korea for context, continued being the bully till high school. Somehow he ambushed and beaten the untouchable student while he was alone. It turned that untouchable student was Korean mafia son. Bunch of black cars park up at his apartment. Burly guys armed with metal pipes and bats would constantly waltz around the neighborhood and make the bully's family life hell. Apartment neighbors got fed up being terrified with the mafia at their neighborhood. Cops will not show up until the mafia dispersed, to the point they pressured the bully's family to move out at once. Never heard what happened after they moved. Not entirely sure why the bully did that. Maybe due to his pride. Maybe a proof he is the Jaejang, old Korean term for a student who is the toughest and strongest brawler, who'd constantly challenge or be challenged by other classes and or other schools. Got shipped off to Baghdad in the early 2000s and never came back. Local politician. He became a Disney Channel star, started a YouTube channel with creators, exploded, now H is in boxing. I want to believe that your bully is one of the Paul brothers. I really do. But I don't. I do fine now. Was a stupid kid that did stupid things to a boy who didn't ask for it. We ended up being friends after he had the courage to call me out. I got suspended, and both our mothers agreed to meet and to force us to spend time together, to know each other. I never was more grateful to someone than those two women, my mom obviously, but also his mom. She was a tall and fat lady, seemed really cold and severe at first glance. Understandable as I had beaten up her son, but ended up being like a second mother to me. She showed me that even trashy humans like me can become better if given a second chance in the right conditions, and that lesson will stick with me forever. Agnes, I miss you. Asterisk, the worst one I've ever met in my life never exactly had his own comeuppance. His father was wealthy from being the assistant harbormaster in one of the largest fishing communities in the country, so he never exactly had to work. From what I've heard, he lives off his family's wealth while being a hobbyist photographer. His parents did get divorced and his drug-addicted mother passed away. Another little monster who was a year older than me died at 21, when he fell off a 200-foot cliff while hunting with his girlfriend's family. This kid who tormented me non-stop at Boy Scout camp enlisted in the army, was injured and is now partially paralyzed, living a secluded lifestyle under his family's watch. **The Boy Scout bully's close friend who was very antagonistic was busted 4 years ago during an FBI dark web sting operation for trafficking drugs. He's awaiting sentencing. He was an anti-bully. He was built like a tank and had crazy eyes. Everyone was afraid of him, even the biggest, baddest bullies. Yet, he would help anyone in need and hated bullying. If you got messed with, you could ask for his help even if you didn't know him. He was a giant with a heart of gold. Last I heard of him is that he was a private contractor in a war zone and got mixed up in smuggling. He later fell off the face of the earth. Some rumors say that he got gunned down in the middle of nowhere. Other rumors say that he is sipping pina colada on a tropical beach with no extradition treaty. Bro is a folk hero. Tried to friend me on Facebook. Seriously? Go F yourself. He's now some sort of spiritual guru. I punched him in the face in 8th grade and he didn't even look at me for the next 5 years. No idea where he is now.